Hi crafters, Raquel here with Paints and Glitter. Today I'm coming along with a beautiful little project from Paper Rose. This is their little bunny stamp here. It's called Bunny Love, and it is a clear photopolymer stamp. So I'm going to be using that along with this Candy Kisses Basics 6x6 paper collection, and I'm going to be incorporating some little hearts for a shaker, as well as these darling little dies called Small Hearts metal die, and a few little frames from the square die collection. And this is called Lots and Lots of Squares, which is aptly named, as you can tell there. It's got lots of squares. So these are frames, but I'm going to be using them to help create a frame around this cute little bunny image. So the first thing that I'm going to do is stamp that bunny. What I've done is that I took this die here, and this is the second largest one. It's got little hearts all the way around, but they all cut the inner square. So I've cut that out. And now I'm going to stamp and color that bunny before we proceed. I'm going to be using some premium dye ink from Paper Rose, and I'm just going to place a little bunny here kind of toward the right of this image, and I want to make sure that I have him exactly where I want him to be located. So I'm using my frame here just to make sure. And I think I like that. Oh, so he even has some little expression lines there. They almost look like little eyebrows. So cute. So I'm just going to stamp this one more time here very gently. Here I have my base image stamped. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off of here. But I'm going to use a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to place it right where that bunny was. And I'm going to be fussy cutting this one out. Okay, that one's good enough. I'm now going to fussy cut this one so I can make a mask for the stamped image. Now that I have the image cut out, I am going to speed this up a little bit. And what I'm going to do is layer that fussy cut image right over my base stamped image that I'll be using on this card. I've grabbed some inks from Pink Fresh Studio, and I'm using Sky Blue. This is just a very, very light blue. You can go ahead and use a brush applicator and just saturate that as much as you'd like to, and then start working in a circular motion to add your color around the image. And then I've also used a very light green for the very bottom edge of this image. And of course, that mask is still on top. I considered adding it on the top edge and then changed my mind, but now I can remove that. And as you can see, I now have a really pretty glow around that image. And now I'm using some Nuvo alcohol markers. These are from Tonic Studios, and they are really nice for coloring images. So you can also use Copics. In this case, I'm using number 485. It's a very light gray. And as you can tell, I'm just going around the perimeter of that image on the inside perimeter. And then I'm also coloring in the little tail because I forgot to mask that off, and I'm just going to work with the colors. It had a tiny bit of blue on it, but as you can see, it's not going to be of any consequence. I'm now using a deeper gray. This is 495. If you're using Copics, of course, you could use an N2 and an N4 in place of these grays, and just follow along the little areas wherever you want to add a little bit of shading. Don't forget that you don't have to color in stripes. You can also use some stippling motions. Here, this is Stonehenge. It's number 497, and it's also neutral gray, but it has a little bit of cream in it. If you know about coloring. So this is what I'm going to use to also color around the little eyes, around the little face, and the tail. And then I'm going to go back and add a tiny bit more of that feather gray, which is number 485, just to blend things in. So I start out with a very minimal application of color and then just start adding from there wherever I see fit. And then I go back with that darker color, that's 495 again, and that's going to be for the very bottom portion of the little feet, just creating a little bit more shadow, and then of course always blending it out with the lightest color in that trio. Here I have a little pink, and for some reason this marker did not have a number on it, but I don't think it's going to really matter so long as you pick a color that you like. Then I'm going in with Strawberry Jam, which is a really pretty red. That's number 379 from Nuvo. And this bunny has a peculiar little design here, which I really liked, and those were the little striped ears. So I wanted to play around with that. And then I also added a little bit of this red on the outer portion of that little heart that the bunny is holding. I thought that would look really cute. And of course, you add as much or as little color as you like. And then 454, which is dragon fruit, is the pink that I added to the little nose. And then I did go back with a Copic marker. In this case, this is just a very, very light pink. It's RV10. And I added that to the little cheeks as well as the ears and the little belly of this little bunny, and that completes my coloring. It was super easy to color, and then I decided to create this into a shaker. So I've added two of the little hearts from the collection that I chose, and I'm using some very low tack tape. I ran that through my die cutting machine, as you can tell. Now I'm just removing those pieces that created two little windows, and I've taken a piece of acetate. I'm going to adhere this to the back of this panel. So I'm using double-sided adhesive. You can pick something that's nice and strong, and this is going to be sufficient just to hold that on. And I'm adding that now to the back of that panel, as I said before. Once you have adhered that, of course, you can burnish it if you would like to, and then remove any type of covering if you're using the type of acetate that comes with that. If not, you can definitely recycle some plastic. Now I'm leaving this here in the video, however, I did go back and change my mind on the design, so I ended up covering this, but if you like it, you can definitely take a micron pen and do a little bit of stippling motion right around those little apertures to decorate them, and I also did some little coloring with a red marker. But for the foundation of this card, you're going to need two panels that are 6 by 6 and a third one that will be 6 by 6.5. Go ahead and score that at a 1/2 inch mark. And then where you scored it, go ahead and place that on your scoring tool and also add a diagonal score line right on the front. This is going to help create an easel card. So both of those fold lines are going to be mountain folds. Now on that 1/2 inch portion, you can apply your adhesive. Make sure you're generous here so it sticks well to the foundation that was 6 by 6. And then you can fold that over. This is going to help create the front of the card. Once you have that nicely situated, you can burnish that as well. And I am going to be decorating the inside of this card. So for this, I've taken this beautifully striped panel, I've cut it down, and I like to take away about 1/8 of an inch on both sides. And this is going to be adhered right to the inner portion of this card. So you situate this whichever way you like. And now I'm going to decorate the front panel that I had folded. And the reason being is that this is still going to show, and I really like the idea of decorating as much of a card as possible, especially when you have such beautiful papers. And it's going to come in handy later on as well when we finish this card. So here's the front panel. It's also 6 by 6. I'm going to be decorating this with that beautifully red and white striped panel as the base. Again, removing about 1/8 of an inch on both sides, or 1/16 of an inch. And then I'm going to be using this panel here. As you can see, I cut into that polka dot paper with the largest scalloped square die. And here I'm just adding a little bit of white highlight onto this image. I decided to add a tiny bit more detail there for contrast. But that blue and white panel cuts into both pieces, both the scalloped edge and the inner edge, but I'll be using both. And here I'm adding foam adhesive to the back of that stamped panel. And basically I covered as much as I could without covering, of course, the little heart apertures. But you can go ahead and layer this right on top of that 6x6 base panel. Then go ahead and add your scalloped little frame. I think these little frames are so cute. So this is going to go right on the front. And here I'm going to be covering the back of this front panel with the little heart apertures and the bunny, but I removed only a portion of the backing of that adhesive, and the reason being is that I'm going to create a shaker out of this. And of course I'm adhering this onto that square polka dot panel, and now I'm going to take that shaker mix and sort of fill that in. And I did take my bone folder and use it as a bit of a stopper so that my paper wouldn't continue laying down on top of the adhesive, but it just added a little more, and then removed all of that backing, and now I'm laying that paper right on top of that adhesive, burnishing that well, and there's my little shaker. I still want to decorate this further, so I'm taking the second square frame. That one has all of the little hearts, and I'm using a glimmer gloss pen both on that frame and on the bunny, just in key little places there. And now I'm going to adhere this right around that shaker portion. Gives yet a little bit more detail and just a subtle shine, which I think is so cute on a card. And now this is going to adhere right on front, so I'm going to add an ample amount of adhesive to adhere this to the front of my card. Now this is going to go right on the front, and this is where I mentioned it would be handy to decorate that upper left-hand portion, because it also reminds you of where to add your adhesive on the card. So here, all you have to do is now line up that base panel with that front panel. Make sure that it goes all the way to the edge, and then apply some pressure so that you can adhere what will be the interactive portion of this card. I do like to apply plenty of pressure here, but I love using the paper creaser because that way I don't get any type of markings on the paper. And here's where I had mentioned I changed my mind. Instead of leaving the hearts as they were, I did take those little heart dies, and there's a small, medium, and large. So I did cut out the large one first, and then I used the same paper and cut into it using the medium size die. And then I cut a few of the smaller hearts. I did the same thing there, creating an aperture with both. And then I doubled up these little hearts. I also use glimmer gloss on the larger one. And then I adhered these right on top of those little apertures because it created some really pretty little windows. So of course I could have left them as they were, but I really like the way that this looks. Here I've taken some of the smaller hearts that I cut out with those little dies, and I did score them right down the middle, and this allows me to double up a heart and also have a little bit of height. I'm also going to be stamping another small heart with the XOXO from the little bunny stamp. These sentiments came with it. I thought they were so cute. So this one states, "Some bunny loves you," and that's going to go on one of the larger hearts. And I'm also going to be doubling up this heart with another piece of 300 GSM card right behind it. So you will need some height for this. And I took advantage of some of those little scattered hearts and adhered them as well, just for a little bit more texture and color. And here's yet again another doubled up small heart. Now again, for the inside of this card, I wanted to take advantage of these gorgeous papers. So here's another panel that will go right on the inside, and this one has that floral motif on the edge. So that's going to go right inside, and also has that gorgeous plaid. And now the larger heart here that I had stamped the phrase onto is actually going to help hold open the card, but it's also going to be the sentiment. So here I'm layering that smaller little heart with the XOXO, and of course I add a little glimmer to that as well. So just a tiny little drop of adhesive will hold that in place. And here I've taken the liberty of adding a little bit more of a whimsical design here, and I'm kind of copying the lines that exist on the stamped image by just adding some little doodles as if this were a long string of balloons. And what I did was to draw that line to kind of connect all of these little hearts. And as you see here, the little green heart covered one of my little loop-de-loops, but that was not a problem. I just extended it a little bit longer. And of course, a black pen is also just an essential in a craft room. If you like to doodle or craft journal, any of that stuff, then I highly recommend always having a really nice felt tip black pen. And this is going to help create this long little string of heart-shaped balloons on the front of my card. So here's that smaller green heart. And it's wonderful to have double-sided papers because you can just as easily flip the paper over and get a new design and know that it's going to work really well with the card or project that you're making. So lastly here, I added a little bit of shine. This is called Crystal Glaze, and I wanted to make the most of those tiny little details on that stamped image. So I just selected some little portions onto which I added that glaze, and that helps give it a little bit of a wet look. And I do recommend that for alcohol colored images, not so much for watercolor images. I added a little red bow, and this completes my card. I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. I invite you back to this channel for more. I will also have links in the description bar of this video, so if you want to check out these items, you'll be able to access them directly from my video. Thank you so much to Paper Rose for sending me these gorgeous supplies, and I do hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. And as I always say, that you can be inspired and be blessed.